Hi, welcome to Module 5 called Massage Yourself. And this is about massaging your message because you've gotten all this great content, your notes, your research, your blog posts, your interviews, and it's this great soup of content and ideas and stuff, but now it needs to be massaged and created into a readable format that flows nicely, has great punctuation, and perfect grammar. Let's get started. All right, it's time to massage yourself. Massage your message. Well, we talk about your content. You've got a book in the works, folks. You've actually got your positioning done. You've got an outline done. You've got some marketing built up. You've got some fan base building, and now it's time to get your book written. By now, you've had your journalists complete your interviews. You've got a sample chapter done, and you've sent that back and forth between you and your writer once or twice to flush out your voice, your pacing, your style. No grammar spelling. Don't do that now. Do that later. But now it's time to actually work on making sure that you've got that captured clearly, authentically, and in a compelling manner. So we're going to massage your message. Some questions to ask yourself in terms of clarity, because a lot of you have a lot of content in your head and you want to get it out there, but you can't get it all out always in a single book. So treat your introduction and your first chapter with extra care. Spend as much time on this first chapter as you did positioning and getting your concept clarified in your head. Does the first chapter sound like you? Does it have your voice? Does it have your humor? Does it use big words? Okay, make sure you write this for the 5th grade level. I've had some very successful people, PhD people, who want to use lots of big words in their book, and I said, that's great for your textbook. This is for the general public. So does it sound like you when you're talking to regular people? Are the points clear? Are you making sense? One way you can do that, if it might make sense to you, go ahead and take that first chapter, after maybe perhaps after it's even edited once, is give it to somebody else to read. Is it well paced? Are the paragraphs broken up? The worst thing you can do in a book, and it's not for design's perspective right now, this is just for pacing, but long paragraphs are difficult to read. Make sure the paragraphs are crisp, and on a typical 6x9 page, you should have at least 3 paragraphs. Closer to 5 would be much better. After you're done with massaging that first introduction and first chapter back and forth with your writer, and you spend a lot of time on making sure that he's got the style that you want, the pace that you want, and the clarity that your readers need, it's time to give your writer that specific feedback and understand that you might need some other things in there. Maybe you need a story. Maybe you want to give them some examples. Maybe you want to switch the prose around a little bit to have more visual pictures in there. Don't say, it was night. You might want, it's a dark and stormy night. Or you want to use, anecdotes or analogies. You might want to add some color to it, add some flavor to it. The most important thing you can do in any book is add stories. People love stories. Our entire culture revolves around stories. The fireside chat, the movies, the stories we read, the stories we tell our friends at work, the stories we hear about. Stories stick in our brains. So do points, so do bullet points, but long drawn-out essays do not stick with us very long. Making a story with a point, of course, is the best combination of all. So when you're going to complete your sample revision, make sure it's written in your style and your pace, there's some stories in it, and be as visual as you can with the words. After you've got the sample edit done, you can turn your writer loose. This is time to actually get things rolling. We're going to transform a typical book project, which could be back and forth edited 8-10 times, into basically sitting down writing it one time with one edit. And we do that by spending a lot of time in the early stages. There's an old saying that Abraham Lincoln said, if you give me, what did he say? If you give me 6 hours to cut down a tree or something, I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. That's what we're doing here with your book. We spent a lot of time, a lot of hours crafting your message, positioning it, and then working in that first sample chapter. Once that is completely clear and ready to rock and roll, turn your writer loose. Give them the empowerment and authority to get going and writing your book out. Do you want some progress reports? Sure. If he's taking a month or 6 weeks or so to craft your entire book, there's nothing wrong with asking for a little bit of work product to view on a weekly basis. Just don't interrupt them too often with that, because it could interrupt their flow as they're writing your book. When do I correct it? The 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 biggest mistake people make when writing their books, when they're writing them themselves, is editing as they write. It slows you down by a factor of 10 easily. A lot of my writers are not good spellers. Grammar isn't even that great. But they've got great prose and they know what they're doing. They can capture a person's voice and mimic it accurately. When it comes to proofing a book, get an anal retentive tactician to proof your work, to make sure that the phrases are not clumsy, to make sure that spelling is perfect, no typos. And there's some specific words that it just irks me. So anytime you see the word really, there's no cause for it. Like this sentence here, less is more. Really? I mean, you could cut that word out, right? Less is more, period. Goes right to the point, doesn't it? Sort of like this slide. So conclusion, this is a shorter one here. Editing is more scientific than artistic. The first few sections of designing, positioning, getting perspective, outlining, branding, that's all very artistic. When it comes to editing, at the very end, after the manuscript is all completed, it's pretty much, cut and paste. You're going to want to put through an automatic spell checker, but do not forget to get an actual human being to go through that for grammar and editing, because there are some things that are not caught by those automatic ones. Once you've empowered your writer to do his job, and by taking a lot of time in that first sample chapter, you only need really one major revision after the entire manuscript is through, if you've done this system, which we've discussed here in this module. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a shorter one, and the next one's like one of my all-time favorites, so watch out. And we encourage you to be a member of our tribe, so please come to authoryourbrand.com and join us. We'd love to have you on.